It is the Adam Gold Show, and we talked about it a lot yesterday. It was less than an ideal Saturday for NC State football, and it should be pointed out that it was at the end of a truly horrible week for the program with the family, for the family of DJ Elliott. And before we even get to the football program, as we bring in Cory Smith of Pack Pride, who joins us in the Adam Gold Show, how do you sum up what the program has been through? Basically, it's not just the last week. What the program has been dealing with, behind the scenes, really, for the last, several weeks, months.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back for several years, obviously, for DJ Elliott and his family with, his daughter battling cancer for the last 5 years. And I mean, this entire program has kind of dealt with, not only that, but also, you go back to Dave Doran with his father, battling Alzheimer's and passing away from that. And then you had Ruffin McNeil moving back to Raleigh to be with his father. And, all of these coaches have gone through this. So they all kind of empathize and know and see what he's going through. But, nothing can prepare you for that. I mean, we're talking about, people losing parents and losing, grandparents and things along those lines. That's a little different than, the death of a daughter and her being, 17, 18 years old. Like this is, not something that you can ever prepare for. And it's obviously, something that really has upset the entire, the defense too. So we saw Caden Fordham, after the game on Saturday, obviously frustrated with the way the game went, but just in absolute tears, just talking about, his coach and talking about what the program has gone through in the last couple of weeks. So it's hard to really put it into words, but yeah, obviously it's something that has been weighing heavy on this team throughout this too.
Yeah, I think everybody, myself included, we all kind of put some, things to the side and we're just focusing on the scoreboard and all that. We all have a tendency to forget that these are all human beings that are impacted by stuff that we never see. So our hearts go out, man, to bury a child is just, I mean, I can't, it brings me to tears. You think, I'm thankful that I'm not in the same situation, stuff like that. So I just want to clear that part up because I did get some questions about, did you consider, based on the performance against Virginia Tech, and we all forget. So I just wanted to get that, out in the open. Here's what I said yesterday, Cory. I don't know. I don't expect you or anybody else to pay attention to anything I say. It's been 13 years for Dave Doran, and my feeling is the program has incredible bones. Right? Maybe it's a fixer-upper for some people. It's like a house, right? It's got incredible bones. There's the foundation, I think, of something that can be truly outstanding. I think everything that Dave Doran has done, he should be proud of, the way the program conducts itself, the people in it, the family atmosphere, the culture, players to the NFL, all of that. They just haven't won enough. Where do you see the program right now in year 13?
Yeah, I mean, it's in a rough place right now, obviously coming off of 2 consecutive losses. And, look, I mean, you talked about it. Everything that Dave Doran's done, he's the winningest program in NC State history. Obviously, if you talk about going back to, the Tom O'Brien, the Chuck Amato eras, obviously Chuck Amato had one amazing season and a couple really good seasons with Phillip Rivers. And then, just never was sustained.
Right.
What Dave Doran has done has been, he's reinvented himself multiple times. And he's done it, with 4 different quarterbacks, and then being able to lead them to 8+ win seasons. He did it one season with literally 4 different quarterbacks. Right. So he's, that's part of it is like, it's hard to throw dirt on his grave and be like, hey, he's going to be done here. But, because of the fact that he's done it so many times where he's been able to turn things around. But, the part of it right now is the fact that you're coming off of a really rough season where you went 6-6 and we're lucky to get to a bowl game. You lose the bowl game at the end of the season. And as much as people say that, bowl games don't matter, that one mattered, losing to ECU.
Right.
And it also, part of it right now is you're looking ahead, and we knew this team needed to go 5-1 to be able to, in the first 6 games, to be able to get to, probably a 7 or 8 win campaign. That was going to be, kind of the bar for this team, was like, hey, you got to get above 7 wins. Now you're looking at it, you'll probably get your 4th win this weekend and be 4-2 going into the back half of the schedule. It's just a really rough look for the program to not only be 4-2, but to have just lost to, a Duke team on the road that, most NC State fans feel you need to win consistently over Duke. And then the Virginia Tech program that, is down and out right now, and you allow them to come into Carter Finley Stadium and beat you 23-21. It wasn't so much the defense to me in that game as much as it was the offense in that one, not living up to the expectations. This team knew they needed to win in the 30s and 40s, and they didn't do a good enough job in that one.
Cory Smith from Pack Pride is joining us here in the Adam Gold Show. I said before the season that I actually thought Duke was the best team in the Triangle. But watching the Wolfpack play the first 3 games, I thought, man, their offense could be so explosive. I had a hard time. I thought State would win the game in Durham, but Duke cleaned it up finally. I thought Duke got beat at Tulane twice by Illinois. I thought the Illinois loss contributed to the way they played at Tulane. Maybe in some ways, State, who played similarly as Duke did in the loss to Illinois when State lost to Duke, I don't know, maybe they got beat twice because they were still allowing sacks, making mistakes. I don't know, maybe they got beat twice, but to allow Virginia Tech, a program that had just fired their coach, had already had players announced that they were going to redshirt to preserve the year of eligibility to see what was going to happen with the program, to allow them to come here knowing that you had to have the win was such a downer. And this because you talk to fans, and I deal with fans on social media all the time, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way. They were out based on the first half against ECU, or the second half. They were out based on the first half against Virginia, and the first half at Wake. They were already done then. And even winning those 3 games, it just brought them back off the ledge. But they got right back on it after the Duke game, and now they're ready. They're ready for change. I really like the program. I would never advocate for NC State to fire somebody who's been as good as Dave Doran has. For Dave Doran's sake, I just want him to either find something else. I feel like I'm talking about Herb Sendek here. Find something else, or just retire. Go fish, man. Yeah. Go live the life you want to live.
Yeah, and that's kind of part of it too. And what you're talking about there is more of the perception of the program. You when you look at NC State, NC State fans expect you to be consistently better than Duke. That is not the case right now.
Right.
I don't want to downplay Duke in any way, shape, or form. They've won 5 out of the last 6 and done it outright. There's a reason for that. The perception of you should be better than a Virginia Tech team that just fired their head coach, had 20-plus players leave the program, or saying they're sitting out the rest of the way so that they can collect NIL checks because they're rightfully owed them. Those types of things, you should be better than that. And I think that's part of the issue right now for the NC State team is you're not. And that, to me, when you go into the back half of the schedule, it's going to make it that much more daunting because you got 4 out of the last 6 teams probably competing to be in the college football playoff. I don't think we're talking about this enough. The fact that Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, Florida State, Miami, all those teams still in discussions to be in the college football playoff. And right now, if the perception of your program is you can't consistently beat Duke and you lose to a Virginia Tech team that just fired their head coach, I don't think there's a lot of optimism going into those last 6 games that you're going to be able to find a way to win 2 of those and try to get to bowl eligibility, much less 3 of them, and be above that bar of 7 wins being kind of the thought process going into this year.
Cory Smith from Pack Pride is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. How much of this is also, we all looked at the possibility, and we said it out loud, man, they could be 6-0 going to Notre Dame.
Exactly.
That has to play into it because even though people were I think most people were a little bit skeptical, fans anyway. I really thought they were going to beat Duke and beat Virginia Tech and beat Campbell, as I'm assuming they will this weekend. And so I was as guilty of it as anybody. And all of a sudden now, it's a gut punch. And yeah, I think you're right. So how much of it was people's expectations, hopes got raised?
Yeah, I mean, some of it is the expectations of, hey, you're thinking you're going to be 6-0. I mean, we were talking about, hey, this might be a team that's undeserving of being ranked going into the Notre Dame game and, be built up as two top 25 opponents. But NC State is not really there. But they should be at least in that discussion because they will be 6-0 coming out of this. And now you're looking at, again, 4-2 coming out of this. So, yeah, the expectations of that. But also, I think some of it plays into the fact that you look at what Boo Corrigan has done when it comes to hires for NC State, too. You look at the fact that they've gone out and, they've gotten, obviously, the big name hire was Will Wade.
Right.
He hasn't played a game to this point, but he's able to put together the roster that he did, and the fact that Will Wade was, the fact that Boo Corrigan was able to go out there and get Will Wade. I mean, that was something that a lot of people didn't think was going to be possible. And then you look at the other hires that he's made. Mark Hubbard, obviously being a big one. The fact that men's soccer right now currently number one in the country after 2 years ago, not even making it to the NCAA tournament for multiple years. They went to a Sweet 16 last year, and now being on the cusp of being potentially a number one seed going into the NCAA tournament and hosting a lot of these. So those are kind of what you're looking at right now when it comes to the hires for Boo Corrigan. And I think that gets a lot of people excited, like, hey, we don't want to miss our window,
right,
and be able to go out and potentially get somebody that could be a big name hire here too. So there's just I think there's a lot of things that are not playing in the, in the side of Dave Doeren this season right now.
First of all, you're 100% right. The Will Wade impact on this should not be lost. I mentioned this last week. Joe Lunardi. This means nothing, but Joe Lunardi had NC State as an 8 seed, right, in his an updated bracket. Even though we haven't done anything but practice at this point, we have an updated bracket. But he had Will Wade, and that speaks to the energy around the program and the players that Will Wade has brought in, and that is absolutely tremendous. Let me ask you one final question, and I think this is also in some ways contributing to how people feel about it. He's beaten Carolina, Dave Doeren, on a regular basis. State will beat them again this year. But what are the signature wins for NC State football, especially in the last 5 or 6 years? What is it, 6-24 against top 25 teams? What are the signature wins? And that's the other thing that this program has missed, are those types of victories.
Yeah, I mean, a major part of it is the fact that, not only have they not won a ton of top 25 games, but also the fact that a lot of those top 25 opponents ended up kind of dissolving later in the season. And that's another one that a lot of NC State fans latch on to is, where did those teams end the season? How did those teams shake out at the end of the season? And, they beat Clemson twice, but neither one of those Clemson teams really amounted to much. Both of them missed out on ACC championships, if I remember correctly. So you go back to, obviously the 2021 win over Clemson, and then, some of the signature moments against UNC. I don't want to just completely discount them and say, oh, well, those don't count because it's UNC. Those are always going to be big wins, but the fact that you won the game late against UNC at home, and those count as signature wins to me. But to your point, there really hasn't been. There's been a lot of close calls, and a lot of close situations, but a lot of people kind of boil that down to, all right, well, it wasn't good coaching down the stretch, and that's the reason why you lost that game. So a lot of those end up falling squarely on the shoulders of Dave Doeren. So there hasn't been a lot of signature wins, and again, you don't have a 10-win campaign. You haven't gotten to an ACC championship game appearance, much less actually winning one. Wake Forest has done that. UNC has done that during his tenure. They at least made it to one, didn't win it off of an offsides because of Clemson, and then, a couple of years ago against Clemson too. But, that's the thing, is that's kind of the bar, is at least getting to 10 wins one time, at least getting to the ACC championship game, winning a bowl game, something they haven't done since 2017. You say it doesn't matter a whole lot, but it still matters in the grand scheme of things. And they've missed that mark on a consistent basis. And that, again, doesn't play in favor of Dave Doeren in all of this.
Cory Smith on Twitter. Editor, Pack Pride, my man, I appreciate your time always. Be well. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man.